Okay, there we go. Thank you. First, I want to welcome you all to First United Methodist Church, Bristol, Tennessee. It's so good to see everybody here. We know that there's still people quite concerned about being out. I just ask everyone to please be very, very careful. And especially when we have young children around who cannot get vaccinated. Let's do it for them, no one else. I do have one piece of good news that I was not sure about until this morning. But apparently, our mission in Haiti was not where they had the earthquake. As far as we know, our mission is fine. We still need to pray mightily for Haiti, what's happened politically, what's happened with that horrible destruction that brought earthquake. And also let us keep Afghanistan in our prayers. Hard time this is for all of us right now. We each can do a small part, nothing more. Smile if you can through a mask. Just do what we can to show people God is still quite alive, very active. Are there any other announcements? I believe there will be an administrative board meeting. It will be both in person and by Zoom. I can't remember the term. I guess it's hybrid. But that will be held next Sunday, 3 o'clock. So either plan on being here or being on Zoom to make some decisions. We need to talk again about everything. We need to talk probably about several. If there are no other announcements,
remind us who are a little more familiar with Methodist connectional systems, those groups that we have, that the administrative board is one of our open meetings. So if you feel led to attend, if you have an opinion about how we gather, or just want to hear the conversation, welcome to 3 o'clock here, and then we'll offer and might not be on Zoom, mostly because our account expired. So it might be something much less expensive than Zoom is available. So for those of you who aren't familiar with those connectional systems, just for your information, the only closed meeting that we have in the United Methodist Church on regarding our usual groups is our staff parish relations committee, and that's because certain confidential issues come up in those meetings that need to be kept within the bounds of that specific committee. So the committee on staff parish relations is a closed meeting. All the others, administrative council, trustees, finance, our worship team, all those are all open meetings, and you are all welcome to attend and to lend your voice. That's kind of how that works in a nutshell. I want to share with us this morning a reading from the Old Testament. And if you brought a Bible with you and you want to make your way to the text as it appears in your hands, you just like the feel of paper, the digital version. Great. We'll be sharing this morning a reading from 2 Kings, from the 2nd chapter, 2 introductory verses, 10 through 12, and then moving down to the 3rd chapter, starting with verse. I'll be reading from the Common English Bible this morning. You have a translation that's a little different from mine. That's all right. So in between the words on your page and the words on mine, there is a word God will speak. A reading from 1 Kings. Then David lay down with his ancestors and was buried in David's city. He ruled over Israel 40 years. 7 years in Hebron and 33 years in Jerusalem. Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his royal power was well established. Now, Solomon loved the Lord by walking in the laws of his father David, with the exception that he also sacrificed and burned incense at shrines. The king went to the great shrine at Gibeon in order to sacrifice there. He used to offer 1,000 entirely burned offerings on that altar. The Lord appeared to Solomon at Gibeon in a dream. At night, God said, "Ask whatever you wish, and I'll give it to you." Solomon responded, "You showed so much kindness. Your servant, my father David, when he walked before you in truth, righteous, with a heart true to you. You kept this great loyalty and kindness for him and have now given him a son to sit on his throne. And now, Lord my God, you have made me your servant king in my father David's place, but I'm young and inexperienced. I know next to nothing. But I'm here, your servant, in the middle of the people. You have chosen a large population that can't be numbered or counted due to its vast size. Please give your servant a discerning mind in order to govern your people, distinguish good from evil, because no one is able to govern this important people of yours without help." It pleased the Lord that Solomon had made this request. God said to him, "Because you have asked for this, instead of requesting long life, wealth, or victory over your enemies, asking for discernment so as to acquire good judgment, I will now do just what you have said. Look, I hereby give you a wise and understanding mind. There has been no one like you, no, nor will there be anyone like you afterward. I now also give you what you didn't ask for, wealth, fame. There won't be a king like you. And if you walk in my ways and obey my laws and commands, just as your father David did, then I will give you a very word of God for the people. My faithfulness, oh, not my Father, there is no shadow of being with thee. Thou changest not thy compassion, faith, as thou hast been. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, mercy I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness. And winter and time and sun, moon and stars, their courses join with all nature in
Thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. By morning I see all I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto thee. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth. Thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide. Strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Blessings all mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning new mercies I see. All I have needed thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto
want to invite us into prayer. We'll open up by sharing with us the collect of the day. Proper 15, this is the 12th after ordinary. Then invite us into a time of quiet. As in that time, God brings to you that simply need to reflect on. I invite you to do so. Don't leave where you are or to lift that up with your voice out loud. Take that, consider that joy for a time of invite us to Almighty God. You have given your only Son to be for us sacrifice and also an example of God. Give us grace to receive thankfully and to follow daily the blessed steps of Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, God, now Our Father, hallowed be thy kingdom, thy will. Give us this. Give us kindness.
Keep your in the of heaven. Let my heart and soul return to God. It my foot stay, lest I fall by the way. Savior in the let my life reflect thy love for all. Let them find miracle, hope, and peace. Oh, all I can stand, my life, Savior. Oh, I lift my eyes over to Him, and I speak my name and find there. I promise I and I leave this life in of your hand. Oh, oh,
Stay simple. I wasn't. With you, reading from the Gospel of and in reverence for the Gospel, reading from Jesus said, I am the living came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. And the bread that I will give the world. Then the Jews debated among themselves, asking, how can this man give us his flesh? Unless you eat the flesh. Whoever eats my flesh, I will raise them my flesh. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, The living Father sent me. I live because of whoever eats me lives because of me. This is the bread. It isn't like the bread that your ancestors ate, and whoever eats this bread, here to sing. Words of my mouth and followers of the way that the first couple centuries after a good bit of trouble. I think more so it gave political power context in which they lived a good bit of. They understood that something weird was happening in that happened during early. How these people were professing to do exactly what Jesus says here. We know better, we who are inside track, but it's a nasty, gross, messy thing to think about. Maybe we shouldn't. Or maybe it's helpful to understand that the God who created the cosmos essentially creates the cosmos of God's own. What is there before God? Sometimes the world looks at what we do, looks at the wisdom of God and thinks, seems like Paul had something to say about human wisdom. I like that we're coming. If you've been following along for the entirety of ordinary time, the entirety of time after Pentecost, summer season, we've been dwelling in the life. If you've really paid attention, you've noticed that we've skipped over large bit. There are holes in this story, and I'm not going to fill them all because that would take a long time. But I invite you to do so. Fascinating. And this is in Christian year, in year B. David. You read around the meantime, there have been rebellions, insurrections, some ugliness that down. There have words from David in his last days that are full of grace. There have been directly to Solomon that have been a bit harsh and scary. I promised that I wouldn't kill this person during my lifetime, but Solomon, go get him. Weird story. Let's get on. This week's story, production of Solomon, has maybe some backstory that we fill in. bit that we've skipped over. There's some just political. There's there's a piece this about Solomon loved the Lord and followed the paths of his father David, sacrificed and offered that. You're not. There were set up before the temple came into being. A number of around Israel, around the different areas of the tribes, where people worship their sacrifices, their worship, having a bunch of local churches, or we do that. But we don't. Said, please don't. The prophets, the author of First and Second Kings, has a problem with the offering of sacrifices at the time. Other authors have not. But because Solomon is the person who is committed to building the temple, Solomon is therefore the person who initiates the location of. God wandered around with the Israelites for generations in a tent tabernacle and was quite content to let that be as it was. But God invites and encourages and empowers to build a temple. It's a glorious thing. It's amazing. It's fascinating just to read it, even if you don't have an artist's of it, just to read the words and to hear what that was like, how many things were involved, and how much creativity was involved. Twelfth went astounding. But after the temple is God, I won't offer a quality on this. It happened. And it's fascinating that the author of Kings on Solomon as saying, though he what we're missing is the previous verse. It says the people, however, continued their sacrifices because of that time no house was built. Isn't it amazing what you God the weird. You need to doesn't ask, well, then again, I find it helpful to remember David has such a strong for Solomon's that it seems no way to he's got to do then things under. So rather than asking for the things that Solomon has, he asks his usually have that it doesn't occur to me. It's even just for maybe your experience. That's something that you wake up and you realize that this day is going to be a day. Maybe you do that every day. Because if you're in my shoes, every day ends up being a day. Or at least maybe you wake up every morning. First thought is God. Good. Get me through this one. God's surface very. There's a part of me also wonders if asking him, he can look back. Now, you won't catch me claiming that Solomon does everything. Got some issues apart from the open shrines, especially for those of us who hold up monogamy to be the, the pinnacle of relationships. Solomon's not the model. I don't even remember. But maybe Solomon is looking back on his. I need not to this move this pain, this royal court in a more holy direction. I'm not going to claim to you that he gets that right all the time either. But he tried. Maybe that's the best that we can pay attention to God giving to us, that God is offering to us, the wisdom that God is pouring out attention to make the best effort, empowered by that we can. God doesn't expect more of us than we can give. God knows exactly who we are. God knows exactly what God will use what we're in. Taking what we have, taking what we mind. It's the mind. Excellent. What we, no matter what we face, we're able to breathe in God. That transforms. Maybe if we don't get that right 100%, we're going to do things wrong. There's room for grace. Then, or we can God's the more promise of God's wisdom. Power. Live.
Take time to be holy. Seek oft with thy Lord. Abide in him always, and feed on his word. Make friends of God's children. Help those who are weak. Forgetting in nothing is blessing. Take time to be holy. A world rushes on. Then my secret with Jesus. I looking to Jesus, like him thou shalt be. Thy friends in thy conduct, his likeness be. Take time to be holy. Let him be thy guide, and run not before him, whatever I in joy or in sorrow, still follow the Lord, and looking to Jesus, still trust in his word. Take time to be holy, be calm in thy soul. Each thought and each step beneath his control, us led by his spirit, to of shall be ended for the suffer.
Friends, go from here, having received into your spirit God's body and blood, very essence of God. Go from here with transforming you, changing everything inside